Guys, we have an incredible show today. It's the first episode of a new series called The Fulfillment Frequency Blueprint. And you're going to see it here today on Groff TV. So today, I'm excited to have you, my friend, on the show. Guys, we have a special guest, and this is Mr. Tommy Forretti. Tommy, it's a pleasure to meet you. Tommy, you are the founder of Foundations of Freedom, a nonprofit 501c3, really transformative ministry that's helping men literally go from dark to light, it sounds like, right? That's incredible. So here's what I love to do if we could start. Let's go back a little bit and share with the audience who you are as a person, what you went through, and then let's hear a lot more about Foundations of Freedom.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I struggled with addiction and alcoholism from a young age. Probably my first drink was probably about 12 years old, and it just skyrocketed over time. In my 20s is really where it took a powerful toll on me, and I really started going downhill. In the beginning, drinking was fun.
Yeah,
drinking and drugging was fun, and then towards my 20s, it was fun with problems, right? And then by the time I hit 30, it was just problems. I had problem after problem, and I found myself in darkness after darkness. I mean, every day was dark. I didn't even want to wake up.
Let me ask you a question. I know that you shared a little bit about to me earlier about your story. We talk about pain gates a lot on TMF Warrior on the other ministry that we have, nonprofit. We help men. What do you think caused a lot of this? What was the pain that you were feeling in your life that started driving you to do all this drinking?
I don't know if it would be pain. I can't really blame anybody else or any specific thing. I think there was a point when I was about 11 years old where my parents got divorced. I think that's what that insult anybody.
Yeah.
But I think I started just not liking how I felt. Right. And the easiest way to not feel is drinking, drugging, fighting to get the adrenaline up.
Yep.
And I liked that feeling of not feeling.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that feeling that you got was a little bit of an endorphin rush.
Yep.
To replace, maybe, like you said, maybe you didn't feel the pain. A lot of times when people hear about pain gates, they misunderstand what we're talking about. So it could be anything. It could be anger. It could be bitterness. It could be hurt. It could be whatever. So we generalize it by seeing pain gates, but you did go through them and you were getting a little bit of a high on violence.
Yep.
Wow.
Violence. And, there was a lot of resentment and bitterness because the first 11 years of my life, my mom was an active alcoholic. And I don't really remember much of her except for her being on the couch and the recliner sleeping most of the day, where my dad was super dad. And when they got divorced, my mom got sober and became super mom. And my dad got a new girlfriend and started using drugs and became an addict himself.
It's like a flip role.
So I was confused. I didn't, I wanted, my dad became lenient, my mom became strict, and it was just like that's crazy. Yeah. It's like the whole world changed.
Okay. So you have this incredible thing. You're how old then?
Right now?
No, at that time.
11.
So you're 11 years old. You take us through, relatively quick, because I want to hear more about Foundation of Freedom, but tell us about where in the next, sounds like 15 years, you went through a lot of craziness.
Yeah. I mean, it was just from, like I said, I started drinking. It was fun. I got to be somebody I'm not, and got to forget how I felt. And I became addicted to that feeling because every time I was sober, I didn't like how I felt, so I became addicted to that. It led to a lot of problems. I've been in and out of jails, prisons, the army. And
some people think army is prison, but you've been in both.
Yeah, nothing like that. But then I actually went to the army to avoid jail the first time. And then as soon as I got out of the army, I started making bad choices and got right back into the drug game.
Yeah.
And ended up in prison for close to 5 years. And then when I got out of prison, I thought I was going to be sober again. But of course, as soon as the first time I didn't like how I felt, I went to the only thing I know, how to not feel, back to the bottle. Started drinking again.
Yeah.
And moved from New York to Florida. Thought the geographical change will make me sober. And Florida, it wasn't long until I found, where the drugs and drinks are down here. And just, once again, it became fun with problems, right into problems. And I was losing my relationship with my children, breaking relationships all around, losing jobs. I was like a roller coaster up and down for years.
Wow. And this continued on to where you were down in Florida. You had mentioned to me that you were the one thing that you really were proud of, though, was your athletic ability, training ability, and you ended up working for a pretty major brand. What was the name of them?
I was with a couple brands. I was with Gold's Gym,
Yep.
Just Fitness for You, and Orange Theory.
Oh, Orange Theory.
Yeah,
The one. Yeah, tell us how that transpired. You started working down here at Orange Theory, I guess.
Yeah, well, I always identified, my identity would be the guy who could work and have kids and be, I was never that alcoholic that's under the bridge with the brown paper bag.
Okay.
I'm not the guy over there who lost his kids. I'm not the guy who keeps losing the job. I always had a job.
You're not bad as them.
I'm not as bad as them.
Sound bad as them, yeah.
Until I was, and until I did become the person that was homeless and doing anything for the next high, the next drink. I moved back to New York, once again, another geographical change.
Trying to get back to the drugs, you think?
No, I was going back home to family, and that's when I became a full-blown alcoholic, because I wasn't doing drugs in New York. All my old friends and drug dealers were better in prison. So I actually just drank, not just drank, but I was driven.
But that was the very drug of choice you could get your hands on.
Yep. And
I heard it got pretty bad, you told me. You got throwing up blood?
Yep. So I worked for Orange Theory Fitness up in New York, was a great coach at the time.
Yeah.
But I was drinking so much. I remember more than 2 or 3 hours without a drink, I'd start shaking. 5 hours, I'd have a seizure. And I'd working for 3-4 hours at a time. And I was in the middle of a class one day, and I just started vomiting blood, and I got rushed to the hospital to a detox, and they realized you're not sick, you're an alcoholic, and you're going through detox right now. And so that was my first full detox.
Yeah.
And I got out. They didn't fire me right away, but I kept drinking, but now their eyes were on me.
Yeah.
And now they can start.
This up in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they can start smelling it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, okay, you have a problem. And right around that time, my children's mom moved back to Florida. So I wanted to move back to Florida.
You want to be near your kids?
Near my kids. Yeah. I got fired from Orange Theory up there, but they were willing to give me a good referral because of my, I guess my personality. And and I told them, like any good alcoholic, I told them, I'll stop drinking if you give me the referrals, And so moved back to Florida, got transferred technically Orange Theory down here in Mandarin.
Yeah.
And same thing. I think I was sober maybe a week or two until I started drinking again. And I mean, we say in addiction and alcoholism, you pick up where you left off, and that's the truth, and even worse. So same thing happened. I was working for the Orange Theory Fitness in Mandarin. My addiction got the best of me, lost that job, but they were pleasant enough to refer me to another Orange Theory in a different franchise in Oakleaf on the west side of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And that's when I started working there, but my addiction took off like it's never done before.
Really?
Yep.
Got worse.
Yep. That's where, a lot more drugs got.
Now, tell me if I remember the story earlier. You had said that, but this was where you met someone. You sort of met this person at Orange Theory there. Is that right?
I wouldn't call it a person. She is the most amazing woman in the universe. Tell us about that story. And I got to hear this time. You're going to love this. I didn't think she was, I remember the first day I met her, I was in a class. I was auditioning to be a coach, taking a class, and I was doing squats. And all I hear, I see this girl come in, and she's like, "Oh, is that the new coach? Is that going to be the new coach?" And I'm like, "Who is this?" And she's like, "Get lower. He's not low enough on the squat." All right. And I'm like, "Oh my God, who is this girl?" Right? And I was like, "It's you in shape, man." Yeah. Like, who is this girl? And she's a bit of coach forever. She's this coach from England. She's really cool. Her name's Natasha. And I'm like, okay. And I did start working there. We became good friends. Yep. So we work out together. We take each other classes.
But just friends, pretty much.
Just friends. Yeah. We used to tease each other. I used to call her a funny nickname, and she'd call me Silver Fox. And but yeah, our friendship started blooming, but it was just friends. We were not attracted to each other. She was, dating.
But was this was you where you shared, I think, with me that it sounds there's a positive thing happening, but it's getting ready to turn really bad really fast. And it sounds like you may end up trying to take your life.
Yeah. So this is where I was always good at hiding everything. Like I said, I was always show for work and things like that. And I had a lot of acquaintances, but I didn't really have any friends, because if people got too close to me, they would realize he's an addict, So I always kept people at a distance. And like
you wore a mask. Yeah, but you were wearing like that. Hey, you know what? As long as everyone knows me from here, it's okay. They get a little closer. And physically, you probably, like you said, you held it. You hit it well with gum and all that, but
Billy Joel has a song called The Stranger. And that's a perfect depiction of who I was. Different masks, different days. Some are silk, some are leather, some are steel. And that song has always resonated with me and addiction. So I definitely encourage any Billy Joel fans to check out that song.
I love it.
But yeah, I was not seeing my kids anymore. Barely ever talking to anybody. I worked for only 3-4 hours a day, early morning from 4 a.m. to like 9 a.m. And the rest of the hours of my day was just chasing the next high. I was committing crimes. I was doing anything to get a couple bucks in my pocket so I could get high all night, get drunk all night, and then go to work and then sleep it off. And it was a vicious cycle for months and months.
You were back on your even finding ways to get crack. You had mentioned that there was a birthday that you were going to go to and bring your kids, or it was a Christmas.
Yep.
You're going to bring in some Christmas gifts. That's a crazy story.
Yeah, Christmas 2019. I was I was a garbage head. If it got me high, give me 2 of them. So whether it was crack, pills, drinking, whatever it was. And Christmas 2019, about a couple days before we all got bonuses at work, or I got bonus at work, it was a couple $100, and I got my kids all these gifts and filled up my car. I didn't have a home yet. I was kind of living on my car, couch surfing, but had a whole car full of gifts, and said, I'm going to treat myself with this bonus for $100 worth of drugs and get high. And that $100 turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4. Now it's Christmas morning, 2, 3 in the morning, and I have nothing. I sold gifts.
All the money that you were burning through, you were selling.
Then I started selling their gifts.
Oh my God.
Because I ran out of drugs, ran out of money. So I started selling their gifts to
the ones you were going to bring to them.
Yep. To get more drugs.
So yeah, no gifts.
No gifts. And I remember how ashamed I felt, and how now the high's wearing off, and the reality hit. I'm feeling again, but I knew I needed to see my kids for Christmas. So I ended up stealing 3 bicycles from a pawn shop and taking them these beat up bikes. And the look on their faces said everything. You know, there was no Merry Christmas. There was no nothing. They just, Dad.
This is how it's almost like this is the value you have in us, that this is what you bring.
Right.
Leftover.
And kids, they know.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen them for weeks at this point either. So once again, now all these feelings, what do? I run and go get high because I don't like yellow. So,
and it was shortly thereafter that you shared with me that another thing happened where one of your kids' birthdays,
2 of my kids' birthdays,
and the same thing happened.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to redeem myself for the birthdays. I went in the same exact thing. I got them gifts, started getting high, sold the gifts. And I was January 14th of 2020. And for the first time in my life, I was too high and too drunk to even go to work. It would have been the first time I think I ever called sick for work ever. And, between the look of disappointment on my kids' faces time and time again, and me just losing everything and now not even being able to work, I just didn't want to live anymore. I was worthless. I didn't have anything to live for. So I took the last bit of drugs I had, stole a couple drinks from a gas station, and I was looking for one of those dead end roads with like one of those brick barriers.
Yeah,
because I was going to drive my car into a tree or into a brick barrier. But I couldn't find one. But I drove and I found this like 3/4 of a mile straight away, like right into an oak tree. It was like a big tree, and I was like, this will do the trick. And I remember driving and then facing the tree about a little less than a mile out, and I took the last hit, took the last drink, and I just floored the gas pedal right towards the tree. The last thing I remember is my speedometer getting up to about 70, 80 miles an hour. And I unbuckled, let go of the wheel, and closed my eyes. And that's the last thing I remember. Before waking up in the hospital the next morning. The first time I woke up in the hospital was pre-surgery, and I just remember beeping and all these things going on, and I blacked out again and woke up again in the trauma unit. Woke up, my teeth were chipped. I had tubes coming out of my lungs. My hip and femur were replaced, so it's all metal on the side. Staples all over my body and my head. And there was a guy sitting next to me that I've never seen before. 2 guys. There was a security guard and this guy. And once I kind of came to, I remember looking at the guy, and he introduced himself as Mark. And I told him, I was like, I need to get out of here, man. I don't want to die. Why am I here? Why am I alive? I need to get me out so I could finish the job.
You wanted to finish the job?
Wow. And he looked at me and he said, Tommy, God doesn't want you dead. And if you try again, you're going to be even uglier. And Yeah. And I was, I mean, broken, and you got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, who is this guy?
Oh my God.
And it turns out to be he was a pastor. And I didn't know God at the time. I've ran from God since I was 13 years old, you know. And he sat with me for hours and days and just talked to me like a normal person. Who had some laughs out of me, but became friendly. And he knew my history at this point and said, "Man, you've tried everything, but you need to try Jesus if you want to live." Yeah, I'd say about a day or two into my.
We didn't talk about this, but I did want to ask you this question. When that moment came where he said the words Jesus, you had probably heard, like most Americans, Jesus before. But it was around that time that you said, I am going to follow Jesus, it sounds like. What was it about him talking about Jesus at this point that made the difference in your heart? Do you think it was just the time that you opened your heart? Or were other people ever talk to you about it? Or was it this point where you just recognized, he's right, I need Jesus?
Well, I kind of laughed it off. Like, okay, this, you know, how is Jesus going to help me? But he was right. I tried everything else. And yeah, he did soften my heart. My heart was softened. And I finally made the decision that I do want to live. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I do want to live.
Yeah.
I've accepted the fact that I probably won't ever see my kids again. I've accepted the fact that I'm starting from square one. I don't even know where I'm going to go next, but I knew I wanted to live. I wanted to continue to live. And, you know, he talked a bit, and when he finally was like, "You need Jesus," I was like, "Well, I'll give it a shot. I will do this." And that's when he started getting real serious about it. And I'm an addict, right? I have an all-in personality. So when I go all in with something, I'm going.
You're going to go in.
And so he was like, "Well, let's start with giving your life to Jesus." And I think my heart was definitely open to it. And I remember the feeling after he did a salvation prayer, and I prayed, and I remember feeling like I can do this. I felt strength. Like I could do this. And I remember telling the nurses, I don't want any more drugs. And they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, no more narcotics. I don't want the morphine and all that stuff." And they're like, "Dude, you just had like serious surgeries." And I was like, "I just don't want it. I don't want any more drugs." And that was January 15th, 2020. And that's the last time any narcotics went into my system. And it was painful, but God got me through it.
You know, I wanted to share that my wife has a medical friend. He works in anesthesiology, doctor. And he says that he's seen a lot of people in a surgery situation where it's a life and death. And, you know, nobody, when they're right near death, usually goes, I want to die. When they recognize what life is like, they usually say, I want to live. I want to find a way to live. And so after going through a windshield, you told me, you now recognize, I'm not ready to die. I want to live. That's incredible.
Yep.
That's incredible.
And that's the strength that, accepting the Holy Spirit into my life, that's what gave me the strength to continue moving on. And Pastor Mark told me, come to the church as soon as you're done at the hospital, and we'll take care of you. Yeah.
And you went through a progress of going and doing the steps necessary to start to build your strength back up, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I couldn't walk for quite a while. When I got out of the hospital, I had a walker and alternated between a walker and crutches. I had to do no pressure on my right side. And the first place I went to was the church. Nobody would talk to me at this point. I burnt all my bridges. So I called actually an old dope friend of mine and said, don't stop anywhere. Don't give me no drugs, but can you pick me up in the hospital to the church? And he did. And he's zooted out of that parking lot faster than our speed racer.
You don't want to be right.
No, didn't want to be around it. And, but the church, Pastor Mark dropped everything and he held his word and he took care of me and he housed me and he led me. Slowly but surely, he would just tell me, I submitted fully to God and to Pastor Mark as my wise counsel. And he would tell me to go to 3 AA meetings a week, go to sit and serve and I was like, I can't even serve. What do you want me to do? So when I couldn't walk, they had me doing lights and sounds, and some Celebrate Recovery. He gave me a purpose-driven life book to read through, got me in something called a Freedom Conference, and, 60 days sober turned to 90 days sober. I was living with these 5 other pastors in training and, through Elevate College. And then I was 6 months sober when I was able to start working at Orange Theory again, doing phones pretty much. And that's when
Did you run into that girl again? Did they girl? Oh, okay. We have that story now.
No, there was some, the relationship was definitely strained. The friendship was strained. And at that point I didn't really know why, but we started going for walks together and she's a fitness coach. So, I was in a walker and she was making me try to run 5 miles at a time, but I was able to limp through the woods and stuff. And she's tough. We had some very tough. Yeah. She's fun, and we continued to just build our friendship, and hang out more and more, get food together. And she ended up getting, real open with me, and likewise. And we just got really close spiritually, mentally, and emotionally.
Now, for time reasons, and so everyone, the story you share was incredible. How your wife now, Natasha, is this woman we're talking about, and you did an incredible story of courting her and being very respectful, being very, by the way, gentleman, like we call it TMF warrior, right? Being a warrior, right, guys? But we'll fast forward a little bit because you guys got married around, when was it?
March 26, 2022.
So it's pretty recent, about 3 years, more than 3.5 years. When did the idea, the vision come to you for your ministry?
So as we were dating and I was courting her, and she chased me a little bit more than I chased her.
We'll check with her later.
But, as we were dating, I was about halfway through school, and I was determined to be the next recovery pastor of Jacksonville. I wanted to be a pastor for Elevate Life Church. And the security guard, that I was in the hospital with, because they couldn't Baker Act me because I was so in trauma. He reached out to me about 9 months into my.
You had said, and real quick, that this the because of your situation, they had to hire a security guard just to keep an eye on you.
Yes, yep. And that security guard we became friends with, share contact information, and about 6-7 months later, I'm now just starting to date Natasha, and I get a message from him on Facebook. He's, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me," and I was like, "Yeah, I remember you. What's up?" He's like, "Hey, I need your help. Can you call me?" And he messaged me his phone number, and I called him, and he was like, "Tommy, I don't want to end up like you. I should have said something when I was in the hospital with that pastor guy, but I was shooting up dope and drinking the whole time I was watching you, and now I'm done with life. I want to die, but I don't want to end up where you ended up. I'm sitting out in my backyard with a gun in my hand. Can you help me?" And that was the first time I was able to help somebody. And I went and picked him up, took him to detox and staying on the scene. Got him back, and more people started asking for help. And unfortunately, a lot of the sober livings and rehabs I've been in are in rougher neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And it decreases your chances of success just because sometimes there's a dope man waiting outside to get you back on it.
I got a question for you because this didn't come up, but I wanted to ask you, when that episode happened with the man, and when you sat down with him, and clearly you obviously got him to put the gun away and focus on, and hopefully he's gotten help since then. My question to you is that when you almost sense this feeling of, this is my fulfillment frequency? And we call it fulfillment frequency because, I'll look at the camera we can talk about the camera for a minute, but I like to say it this way. What is the passion you pursue? What would be the passion you'd pursue if money didn't matter? And, you weren't rich, by any means, not at this point, not financially, not rich with Natasha because you got her in your life, right? But the reality is that when it's sort of like, I don't know if you get a tingle in your heart, you got like this knowing that, wow, I'm good at this, or wow, this is where God wants me. Yeah. Or did you get a sense of fulfillment when you were able to help him and then others started calling? When did you know that this was sort of your?
I think when I started helping him and others, I think I did get that sense of fulfillment. When I saw statistically in America, 10 to 20% of people that go into treatment stay sober. It's a very low. It's 1 or 2 out of 10.
Oh my!
Actually get sober. So when I started seeing that, I said something's wrong here. There's got to be something that could be done. Yeah, like if I could do it, anybody could do it. And that's when, once again, me and Natasha were dating, and we were talking a lot, and we were on a picnic one day, and I remember saying, like, what if I opened up a sober living, and we did it in Oakleaf, in a nicer area, where I got sober. And that's when, my fulfillment was to help people. And I was also discouraged because so many people were dropping. And then I shared that idea with one of the pastors, and another pastor. Natasha challenged me to go out to lunch with this other pastor, and they started praying over it. And once again, I was not financially stable at all. I had nothing in my account. And people gave to the vision, multiple churches, people, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we did fitness classes to raise money. And we ended up raising, it was about $30,000 to raise for the first one.
You put in your own blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely. And so did Natasha, and she still does to this day.
Yeah.
And we opened up our first location November 17th of 2021. And a lot of people are like, oh man, you're only a year sober, a year and change sober. Like how and I'm like, this is what God wants. And I wasn't even done with school yet.
Yeah.
And I felt so unqualified. And that's when we got our first 6 men. We had our first 3-bedroom home for them. And we had our first 6 men. And for the most part, they were doing well. People started hearing about it. And we got a wait list. And I was like, well, let's get another one.
Can I ask you a question? When you had that first 6 men, what is life like for one of those men? How do they live? Do they live in like, a bunk bed? What is life like?
Well, the first 30 days we lock them in a closet. Yeah, with nothing. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But, no, that was like the military. No,
One or worse.
One thing I've found that I guess I'd never really felt like I experienced in life was true love. And I experienced that through Jesus. And so our main core values that Natasha and I established are 3 core values, and that's love, integrity, and service. So the first thing the guys experience is a hug from me. Now, guys coming from jail, prison, the streets, rehabs, it's kind of weird when a guy's just embracing you in a hug first thing.
Yeah.
But they get used to it, and then they eventually start chasing hugs from me. So,
Wow.
but they experience a hug, love. We tell them we're going to love you until you love yourself, because if they're in that situation, most likely they don't love themselves at that moment. And and then we serve them. What do you need? We help them establish an ID, social security cards, whatever they need to get on their feet. And the first 30 days is a lot of everything I did to get sober. So everything Pastor Mark made me do is what they do. So our curriculum is not rocket science. It's a combination of biblical, secular, and clinical steps to help people achieve sobriety. We're the only program in Florida that actually has combined those into a program. So they're doing 3 AA meetings a week, which is the secular side.
That was a part that you were doing too. You did the 3A.
And they're doing exactly what I did. They are required to sit and serve at the church.
Awesome.
At church of their choosing. Elevate's the closest, but we have guys that go to Trinity. We've had guys at Journey. We partner with as many churches as possible in Jacksonville. And if there's any pastors listening in on this now, I would love to meet with you and partner up with you and help save more lives.
Good.
We believe the local church is a huge part of it. So they sit and serve at the church. Their first 42 days are going through purpose-driven life. They answer each question at the end of each chapter. And then after that, they go through a 13-week small group called Freedom. So the purpose-driven life, freedom, and sitting and serving is the biblical side.
Yep.
And then the 12 steps of AA is the secular side. And then the 12 steps to celebrate recovery is also on the faith-based side. And then we partner with licensed therapists that do the clinical side.
Beautiful.
So you belong here until you believe here. We've had guys that come in atheist, agnostic, Muslim, Jewish. They belong. They could get sobriety through what we offer. Some of them end up giving their life to Jesus. Some of them graduate agnostic and still have the tools to remain sober for the rest of their life. Obviously, our focus and prayer is to have everybody turn to Jesus. But if they don't, we're still keeping them sober and praying that hopefully they do one day.
So let's fast forward. We're here today. You have an incredible passion for this. I love it. We say the passion you pursue, if money didn't matter.
Yep.
You're doing this. You're not getting rich doing this. You're not doing it for the money. What does it look like today in your heart? Like when you do it, and you and Natasha, by the way, who I think is incredible. I met her. She's amazing. We're actually going to have dinner later, the 4 of us, my wife. And here's the question for you. Is that fulfillment still there in your heart? Do you get fulfilled doing this? And what does it look like today? What does Foundations of Freedom look like today?
The answer to your question is yes. It's definitely fulfilling. My marriage is my first ministry. That's the most fulfilling. However, Foundations of Freedom, Natasha is the backbone. She is the heartbeat behind it, and we get to do it together, which is amazing.
Awesome.
And it definitely, there's hard seasons for sure.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And there's also seasons of discouragement where I need to turn to, my mentors, my pastors, my friends, my sponsor.
Yeah.
And we turn to each other in prayer to bring encouragement. But at the end of the day, it is very fulfilling. I'm proud to say, we talked about statistics a little bit earlier. Last year in 2024, we had a 72% success rate for men that came into the program and ride sober. So over triple.
It's almost more than 3 times.
Yep. And then 78% from the local jail. So 78% of the people that came from jail have remained sober in the program, which is huge, which caused us to have more wait lists. And back then when we started with 6 beds and 12 beds. Today we have 44 beds.
44
across 7 locations. Yep. So
7 locations.
7 locations.
Now, what a location is it like an apartment complex? Is that how it works?
It's a home. So we have different. We have about 5 3-bedroom apartments, so luxury apartments. They were built for the military originally, so they're very spacious. They're about 16 to 1,800 square feet. So the guys have plenty of room. You guys who are guests. And then we have one that's more of a condo field. It's a 4-bedroom. A couple of the guys have their own room at this point.
Okay.
They're in what we call phase 3.
We have 3 phases. Yeah.
Phase 1 is the emergency room. These are the guys coming from the streets, jail. They have nothing on their back. We clothe them. We get them their ID, their social security card. We're giving them the oxygen to just live the next 30 days, basically. Phase 2 is more like physical therapy, right? These guys now have a job. They're sober 90 days or more. They're more in the community. They're a little bit more confident in themselves. They're working out now.
Yeah.
And then phase 3 is they're either close to graduation or they've already graduated. And at this point, it becomes more like independent living. So we have that condo feel, and we have a 5-bedroom house. It's a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house. And those guys have their own rooms at this point. There's no curfew anymore. We do drug test them just to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Natasha, my wife, she's a life coach as on top of a clinic service test. So she's able to help provide financial training or just even self-esteem training as you like coaching to those guys. And they can stay as long as they want. I have a guy that's been with me 3 years, 2 years. Natasha and I love marriage, obviously. So we have 3 of our men right now that were engaged. Their addiction ruined it. And now they have their ladies back in their life and they're working toward
earning that trust back.
So we have the honor of doing marital counseling with premarital counseling with them and in small groups with them. So as they advance in the program, more and more things open up in the world for them. And so, so out of those 44 beds, 18 of those beds are phase 1, 12 of those beds are phase 2. And then we have the rest are phase 3. And right now we're fundraising for our 8th location, which is another 5-bedroom house for men. We went to a seminar and we learned that most people that finish a 1-year program and go back to where they came from, 80% of them relapse. So only 20%.
So they have to once and for all leave that past that they were in and go to a new life.
Yeah, you got to change people, places, and things. So we wanted to provide a permanent environment for guys for people with bad credit or bad criminal history where they could stay as long as they need to save up the money, clear their credit, to get their own place in a more sustainable environment. So a lot of our graduates now live in the area and they're now part of the program. They're sponsoring guys, they're helping guys, they're serving, and we get to do life with them. A lot of them are my best friends now.
And a couple weeks back, you invited me to speak, which was truly the most incredible blessing that I had to meet these men. And you have a way of conducting your meetings at the beginning and they respond. You make statements and they repeat them. And it was just like the old school days of in football where or the military, where we said things, we learned phrases that encourage our soul.
Yep.
It's like a healing process, these guys. It's like a balm of Gilead. It's like a healingness. It was beautiful. And I think what you guys are doing is incredible. As we wrap this up, I would love you to look into your camera right over here and share people what they could do to be a part of your incredible ministry, Foundations of Freedom.
Yeah, I would love to invite everybody to be involved. There's numerous ways you can get involved. The most important is prayer. Now that you know the name of Foundations of Freedom, just, pray over it, pray over the success, pray over the men coming in, that they're able to feel loved. I think prayers of encouragement from my wife and I, and even Hank, just, trying to get to help more men in the world just become more like Christ. You can follow us on social media and just pray for the guys individually. You'll see them having fun. You'll see some of their monumental moments. And you can find us on Instagram, Foundations of Freedom, Facebook, Foundations of Freedom. Our website's www.foundationsoffreedominc.com.
I'm going to cut in here and just say one thing real quick. Guys, I would encourage those of you who are listening. He won't say it, but he's a very humble man, but and so is Natasha's wife. But listen, so many of us go through our lives, we're buying new cars, we're getting houses, we're going on trips, but we never really feel a sense of attachment to something that really matters in people's lives. This is transformative. And so I would ask you to really strongly consider, find a ministry like this. This ministry, really pray, is this the ministry God's asking you to give that seed money that you have? I believe it's always important for you to give to your church and where you give. And then next, where could I give to help the needy and the homeless and the hurting? I don't think there's a better ministry than this. I believe you have a way that people can donate to the ministry by going on your website. I strongly encourage it, guys. If you're going to be, a warrior in this world, and I speak a lot on my other channel, TMF Warrior, about being a warrior, and I know you're a big fan of it. You've read the book, the manhood frequency, guys. If we're going to be warriors in this world, and ladies, we need to not always stare in the mirror at our life and be obsessed with ourselves. We've got to look outward. We got to look to those people who really need it the most. So I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I would say there's so many men that we get in that like me, burnt every bridge, that nobody's willing to even give them the time of day anymore. And they're either coming from jail or from a rehab, and they have nothing. And, your generosity will help them get in the door and save their life. So every dollar counts, and we're always doing different fundraisers. You could even find on the website, you could sponsor a guy, sponsor a house, sponsor a room in a new house, to leave your legacy behind.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. Listen, man, I can't say enough how much it's been a blessing to have you on, brother.
Thank you. Hey,
it's been a blessing. Guys, for those of you who have enjoyed this program, continue to watch. We're going to have more episodes with more men who are living, and women who are living life on the right frequency and have found their fulfillment frequency. It's a blueprint. We're excited that you're here, you were listening, and go out today and go find your frequency. God bless you.